Alright guys, today we are isolating y. So the first question on your review documents is, what does it mean to isolate y? And the answer is that it means to solve for y. So we're going to get y alone. So we're going to solve for y. And that means get y alone. How do we isolate y? We just follow a couple of very simple steps, guys. So the first step is that we are going to get all the y's alone on one side of the equal sign. So we move anything that is on the same side of the equal sign as y to the other side of the equal sign. And we do that using addition and subtraction. So we add or subtract to move x's or numbers to the other side of the equal sign. After we've done that, we should just be left with y's on one side of the equal sign. And then what we do is we look at the y, and if there is a coefficient, so if there's a number in front of the y, which is what a coefficient is, we divide by that number. And when we do that, we need to make sure we divide all of the terms in the equation, and the term is a piece, so all of the pieces in the equation by that number. So after we have moved everything away and you've just got y's on one side of the equal sign, you divide everything in the equation by the number in front of y. And after we've moved everything across the equal sign, we divide everything in the equation by the number in front of y. Okay. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to work some problems. Alright guys, so looking at this problem right here, I've got 4x plus 2y is equal to 16. If I want to solve for y, the first thing I want to do is I want to get the y's alone on one side of the equal sign. And so what's in my way here is the 4x. It's there, it's on the same side of the equal sign as the 2y. I don't want that. So I'm going to move the 4x, and since it's a positive 4x, I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. And so we end up with, when we move that 4x, it goes away over here, it cancels out. Okay. And we end up with 2y is equal to negative 4x plus 16. And what we do then, guys, is we want to divide by the number in front of y. There's a 2 here, so I need to get rid of that 2. And when we do that, we make sure we divide every term. So a term is a piece, so I'm going to divide the 2y by 2. I'm going to divide the negative 4x by 2, and I'm also going to divide the 16 by 2. So I'm going to divide here by 2. And what we get is y is equal to negative 4 divided by positive 2 is a negative 2. And 16 divided by 2 is 8. And so the answer here, we've isolated y. The answer is y equals negative 2x plus 8. Now, you were asked to isolate y, and please notice that we didn't lose any x's, and that I didn't come up with a numeric, meaning number, solution. I didn't come up with y equals 5 or y equals 10. My x stayed. So please note that. And if you are one of my kiddos who on the test came up with y equals 15 for the isolate y questions, that is an indication that you've done something wrong, because if we start with x's in the equation, we're going to finish with x's in the equation, unless, they all cancel out. But that's not happening with any of these. These are all equations where we isolate y and we get what is an equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, I'm coming over here to number 2, and again I'm going to isolate y. And the first step to doing that is to get rid of anything that's on the same side of the equal sign as y. And so what I've got over here is a 2x that is on the same side of the equal sign as y. And so I'm going to get rid of that 2x. It's a positive 2x, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. And when we do that, we end up, this goes away on this side. And we end up with a negative 3y, and it's negative because that minus sign is attached to the 3. So it doesn't matter what happens with the 2x, that minus sign stays. So it's negative 3y is equal to negative 2x plus 24. Alright, and so I've got negative 3y is equal to negative 2x plus 24. I have gotten y alone. It is alone, which is awesome. But now I need to get rid of the negative 3. That negative 3 is a coefficient, and I don't want that there. And so what we do is we divide every term by negative 3. Every term by negative 3. These negative 3's, they cancel out, and I get y equals, I've got a negative 2 and a positive 3. That means whatever is here is going to be positive because the signs are the same. The signs are the same. It's positive. The signs are different. It's negative. 2 does not divide nicely by 3. So what we do is we just leave it as 2/3. This is 2/3, 2 over 3, x. And again, it's positive because those were both negative numbers. And then positive 24 divided by negative 3 is a negative 8. Positive divided by negative is negative. And it's because they have different signs. And so guys, what I have here is I have an equation where I've isolated y again. Notice that y is alone. And notice that I still have an x because I started with an x. I'm going to end with it. So that is my solution. Alright, what I'm going to ask for the rest of the problems on this page is that you pause the video before I work them out, and that you try to work them out yourself, and then come back and check your answer after you've worked it out. Alright, so I'm just going to assume that you guys can do that, but it's a good strategy. So pause the video before I start, work it out yourself, and then come back and check your answer. Alright, so this question right here has 3's on both sides of the equal sign. Should we freak out? No, it's totally fine. I still am going to follow the same steps, which is that I want to get y alone. This negative 3 is in my way. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the negative 3, and I do that by adding 3x to both sides. And I get y is equal to, this is 6 plus 6x. The 3x goes away over here. Notice that I added it to the 3x over here, not to the 6. That's because the 6 doesn't have an x, so it stayed exactly the same. 3x plus 3x is 6x. Now, this doesn't look exactly like the problems above. The x is the second term in this one. If that bothers you, we can rearrange these two terms. We can switch them. So if you would like to, that's fine. You just make sure you keep the signs the way they are. So y equals 6x plus 6. And that's, either of these is an acceptable answer. You have solved the problem either way. But if you like it better like this, then you can write it like that. Alright, looking at this guy right here, I see that there's a fraction. Should we be afraid? No, we shouldn't. Fractions are our friends and sometimes food. And so we are going to treat this as our friend. It's fine. We should not be worried. And so the first thing that you do here, guys, is the same thing we did with all of the other problems, which is that we subtract the 25x from both sides. I'm going to move that x away from the y. So subtract 25x minus 25x. These cancel out here, and I'm left with negative, because that minus is attached to the 1/2. So negative 1 over 2y is equal to negative 25x plus 3. And so, step 1 we've got done. We're good. What we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to do the same thing we did with all of the other problems on this page, which is we're going to divide by the number in front of y. So that's a negative 1/2. I'm going to divide by negative 1/2. Divide by negative 1/2. Divide by negative 1/2. And you are certainly welcome to use a calculator to help you out with that if you would like to. I will tell you that dividing by fractions is easy as pie. We flip the bottom and multiply, and here the bottom is the negative 1/2. So mathematically what we're doing, what your calculator does when it does this division, is I'm going to leave the x sort of at the end. So it's negative 25 times, we flip the bottom, so it's negative 2/1. So I flipped it. Instead of 1/2, it's 2/1. And I'm multiplying. The x goes on the end, like it's still there. Don't forget your x. And then plus 3 times, dividing by fractions is easy as pie. We flip the bottom and multiply. And so this is negative 2/1. And so this is y is equal to negative 25 times negative 2 is positive 50. Divided by 1 is just 50. That one does not affect us at all. So it's positive 50x. And positive 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Divided by 1 is just negative 6. So 50x minus 6. And that is our answer. Again, dividing by those fractions, don't let that worry you. Okay, remember, dividing by fractions is easy as pie. I flip the bottom and multiply. Alright guys, our last couple questions. These, again, look just a little strange. Should that worry you? No. Notice that the x and the y are still on one side of the equation together. They're just on the right side instead of the left side. That's not a problem. You can move that 3x now and then divide by the 2 and it's totally fine. If it bothers you that it looks like this, I can just switch the two sides of the equation. And that's what I'm going to do because I like having my y's on the left. So I'm not going to add or subtract anything. I'm just going to rewrite it with the 3x plus 2y on the left and the negative 14 on the right. And we can do that. I didn't change anything, I just switched the sides. And so now what I want to do is I want to get the y alone, and so I'm going to do that by subtracting 3x from both sides, and I end up with 2y is equal to negative 3x minus 14. And the 3x's here, just cancel out, and I do not combine the 3x and the 14 because the 14 doesn't have an x on it, and I can't do that. So what we do now, guys, we want to get the y completely alone, and so we divide by the number in front of y, and remember that you divide each term by that number in front of y. So 2 divided by 2 is just 1, it goes away, and that's y is equal to, actually make that look like a y. Alright, and then negative 3 divided by 2, again, does not divide nicely, and that's okay. We just leave it a fraction. Now it's a negative number and a positive number, which means that it's going to be a negative number. If they have different signs, it's negative. The same sign is positive. So this is just going to be negative 3/2x minus, again minus because it's a negative and a positive, 7. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So y equals negative 3/2x minus 7. And that, again, y is isolated and we're good. Here's another one with a fraction just to practice. And so guys, this is, we operate the same way where we move the x's first. So I'm going to move that 3x by subtracting 3x from both sides. And so I get 1/2 y is equal to negative 3x minus 4. And then you divide by the number in front of y, and it's okay if that's a fraction. So we're going to divide by the 1/2. And remember that we need to do that with each term of the equation. Now again, I will show the work. Dividing by fractions, guys, is easy as pie. We just flip the bottom and multiply. So those 1/2s cancel out. I get y equals, this is negative 3 times 2/1 x, and then minus 4 times 2/1. I just flip the bottom and multiply. Dividing by fractions is easy as pie. We flip the bottom and multiply. And when we do that, guys, what we get is y equals negative 6x minus 8. And so again, we've isolated y. Again, reminders of what you should see. You should see an expression that it's an equation and it should still have x's in it. The x's should not cancel out for any of these problems. Okay? Notice that all of my equations still have x's in them. You do not want to end up with numbers. If you're isolating y, your equations should not end up being numeric. Okay? And I'm missing some equal signs. This program does that. Sorry, guys. All right. Again, work them out. Come back, check your answers, and if you have any questions, come see me.